I think the most important piece of information that we start this entire video off with is right here. Okay, the Nintendo Switch 1 2017 launch lineup is probably not what you remember it to be. Nintendo Switch has done a phenomenal job of creating possibly the best Nintendo catalog of all time. There are amazing games across almost every genre and across nearly every major Nintendo IP. If you think back to the first year, Nintendo did an amazing job with Reggie Fils-Aimé at the helm, making sure there was a big release in North America every single month. But if I read off to you the list of what this system, the Switch 1, began with, I think you're going to feel a bit differently. Breath of the Wild was the main title, and that's all fine and dandy. A phenomenal launch game, definitely. Except that it was also on Wii U, so maybe that lessens the appeal in hindsight. 1-2 Switch, Shovel Knight, Treasure Trove, Skylanders Imaginators, a now defunct franchise, Super Bomberman R, Just Dance, okay, Fast RMX, an underrated racer but an eShop game, Human Resource Machine, and World of Goo, two titles that, smaller titles, and World of Goo is very old. I Am Setsuna, an RPG, Little Inferno, also part of that World of Goo Human Resource Machine trilogy, and Snipperclips, an amazing indie that Nintendo helped fund and finish. That's it. Now let's have that be the basis for what I'm going to talk to you about next. What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. Nintendo Switch 2 launch lineup leak. This is a really big deal and will honestly set the stage tremendously for what this system will be. I was looking back and trying to figure out, if this is a Switch Pro, if this is a Switch 2, how they kind of categorize it and what it launches with. For every time there was a brand new half step, like a new Nintendo 3DS or a PS5 Pro, there wasn't really launch games. But I really do believe at this point that whether it's called Switch Pro or called Switch 2, Nintendo will treat this as a full console launch, meaning it's going to get the might of brand new games as well as upgraded titles. So like a PS4 Pro, had, Call of Duty now looks better. And I think we'd see something similar with, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet actually run like they're supposed to on Switch 2. But that doesn't mean that that's a launch game. I think there will 100% be games that pop out with this system, and I would be very, very bothered if there weren't. Now, the leak here comes from the same buyer that we discussed earlier, who tweeted out about PS5 Pro and Switch Pro. This is a Japanese store owner buyer, and they make retail purchases, and so in theory, they would be in the know of what's coming. They say, and are talking about Mario, Zelda, and Splatoon at release of the new system. Now, that would be cataclysmically the best launch lineup ever, but we need to dissect this. Okay, so first off, there's no way that a new Zelda, a new Mario, and a new Splatoon launch on the Switch 2 at the beginning. There's just no way. So I think what we'd have to take this as is a mixed launch of upgrades, re-releases, and new titles. Now, I know some of you are going to worry instantly about being charged for upgrades, because that was sort of a thing that we dealt with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X generation. Like, you have it on PS4? Pay $10 to get it on PS5. I really don't think Nintendo will do that, especially because they're already charging you $70 for Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. There's no way in heck that they could ask for $80 for that game in an upgraded version. In fact, I believe that they will just say, hey, Zelda is a lot better to play now on the new Switch 2, and Splatoon 3 is a lot better to play on the Switch 2. So when discussing a Zelda, Mario, Splatoon launch, I think we need to be very careful that we never for a second think it's new games. Now, I also want to point out that this buyer could be more projecting what they hope or what they think or what they want, but we're going to take it as like a legit rumor leak just for the purpose of trying to figure out the lineup. The most interesting is Mario, and I do think that there is a good chance that they launch the next Switch with a brand new Mario. Not a collection, not a repackaging, not an upgrade, a brand new Mario. This Switch cycle has been very, very prolific for everybody. I mean, there's a lot of Splatoons on this system. There's a lot of Marios on this system, but there's not a lot of mainline Mario. We have 1.5, basically, maybe even 1.25 in Mario Odyssey and Bowser's Fury being tacked on as a nice retail push for the Switch version of Super Mario 3D World. We're due for a new Mario. And if there's a game you're going to withhold for the next launch, Mario makes amazing sense. Question is this exclusive to the new Switch or not? And I'm going to weigh in and say that I think the entirety of the Switch 2 launch lineup is not exclusive. Nintendo, I think, knows that they have a humongous install base that they do not want to give up. Look how long it's taken PS5 and Xbox to find a way to release next-gen only games. Like 3 years. Because they didn't want to pass up the initial audience that they already established and could be ported over to the new systems. Nintendo will not want to start from scratch, and I believe that they will have backwards compatibility and forwards compatibility. You may wonder then what's the point of a Switch 2, but that's a separate video. If these games are going to be on both, then the launch is merely just an exciting way for you to see something look better than before and to play already existing games with better frame rate, with better performance, with maybe some upgraded doodads and features. I'm not predicting ray tracing for Tears of the Kingdom on Switch 2, but I do think they will find a way to enhance these games so that, wow, like, this is the best experience to play. It could honestly get to be a very gray area for, is this worth it? Is this a new system? Because as far as everyone knows, this is going to be an internal switchover, right? It's not like the form factor is going to dramatically change. It's not like the gimmick or the functionality is going to dramatically change. This is Nintendo being very different and saying, we're just upping the power here, and it's our new system. So bringing a new Mario is a great way to tantalize buyers and show them what Mario looks like in 4K for the first time. You bring in Zelda and Splatoon in the equation, and basically you're saying, hey, we're patching up Tears of the Kingdom, maybe even Breath of the Wild as well, and Splatoon 2 and 3, or maybe just 3, to look and run really fantastic. I think you're going to find that the launch lineup for Switch 2, my prediction, it's very small in terms of new releases. I don't think they're going to go all out and have a ton of stuff, but at the same time, the Switch really didn't have a ton of stuff either. Zelda, Fast RMX, Snipper Clips. That's kind of like the trifecta there. 1-2 Switch did not age well at all. So you say they have one really big first-party game and kind of like some indie support, and I think that could be very, very, very much what we see with the Switch 2 launch. I think Mario would be the game. And if you're expecting Metroid Prime 4 to sort of also be something that helps bring about the next generation for Nintendo, I think you're smart. I think you're right on. But I don't think it would be day and date. I think they would launch with Mario and bring out Metroid months later. Because this is being, in my view, looked at as a unified Switch and Switch 2 ecosystem. They're not going to cannibalize one to dramatically affect the other. And they will continue selling the Switch at a lower price point while the Switch 2 exists. And therefore, it's important that these games have their space, have their breathing room, and can exist on both platforms. The idea of exclusive games to Switch 2, similar to this generation, seems like something that either A, will never happen, or B, will happen years down the road. The wild card is C, which could be third parties being allowed to take advantage of Switch 2 exclusivity by saying like, hey, we're going to port over this big, beautiful, like the upcoming Star Wars Jedi Survivor. That thing ain't running on Switch. It can run on Switch 2, so we'll put it out just for Switch 2. How they distinguish that, how they make that work, it's a conversation that Sony and Microsoft have wrestled with for literally years now. Years since the launch of these consoles. But I do not think at launch or anywhere near we have a schism. I think you'll be able to buy everything that you can buy for Switch 2 on your current Switch. And hopefully that's a good thing for a lot of you that don't feel like an upgrade will really enhance things for you. I think it will be notable. I think it'll be substantial, but again, different video. At launch, I think we will get a bunch of upgrades and one big game, and therefore the next generation for Nintendo will have an even smaller launch lineup than Switch, which, all things considered, based on how far we've come, was a really paltry, kind of crappy launch. You had a crossover Zelda that you could get on your old system, and then you had some third-party stuff, but third parties weren't super sure. Look, this wasn't launching with Witcher 3 and Call of Duty. This was launching with Just Dance and Skylanders. All right, that was not a very powerful set of software to get people excited to dive in. It was really the gimmick of the Switch, the functionality of being able to switch, that made everything change. You don't have that this time around, but I don't think you necessarily need it, because the way that hardware is going these days may never really be the same. Once Nintendo buys into this idea of just upping the power, the Switch is the thing. Until they decide to dramatically shift what the Switch is, which why would they? Because they command such a huge market share and control over both a handheld and home console market, then we will just be getting incremental upgrades, and our launch lineups may not be what they ever used to be. In fact, it could just be a one-trick pony in the sense that a big Zelda or a big Mario headlines the launch, even though it's a crossover. Because despite Breath of the Wild being a Wii U and a Switch game, like, how many people actually think of it as a Wii U game? Everybody thinks of it as a Switch game. Whether that's actually factual or not, it's a Switch game, even though it also was out on Wii U. So even if the Mario that comes out and is Mario Odyssey 2 or Mario at the movies, you know, if it's a Switch 2 game and also on Switch, it'll be thought of as the Switch 2 launch title. But outside of that, I don't think we're going to get a big pack-in of like Metroid, Donkey Kong, and Mario all launching on November 21st, 2023 alongside the Switch 2. No, I think you'll have one game that comes out day and date with the system, and then every subsequent title, yeah, will take advantage, and they'll advertise it with the upgraded features and upgraded power that the Switch 2 can provide. And maybe exclusives come down the line, but at the start, I think the Switch launch lineup for Switch 2 has one game. Maybe third parties do come in, so maybe I shouldn't just really bank everything on one game, one Nintendo game. I think that there would be third parties that feel really great about this and say like, hey, okay, now we can put Dying Light 2 finally can come to Switch on the day the Switch 2 comes out. Or, you know what? We're going to bring Mortal Kombat 12, if it can't make it to Switch 2. Or, I don't know, Gotham Knights is going to be on Switch 2. Like, we could have a nice launch lineup. And honestly, I guess it would be very comparable to the launch lineup of a Switch. So at the end of the day, the Switch and the Switch 2 will probably have very equal launch lineups, and I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. Look where the Switch went. The Switch 2 and the Switch are kind of the same, and so I think it'll continue having just profitable, excellent, amazingly well-sold software that is fun to play and great to look forward to, but we need that to start, because I don't think Nintendo is ready to push a major new leg of Switch 1 games until there's a Switch 2. We've seen them announce nothing. I don't think there's a Mario and a Metroid and a Donkey Kong and all waiting for this system. I think we really need that next movement, even if it's not like a full generational, like it's emerging, right? It's not a complete transfer. That's what we need to happen to actualize the next era of Nintendo software and that one first-party game that comes with the system. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Would you be bummed by a singular Nintendo game coming out at launch? Did you expect something different? Or do you really believe that Nintendo will abandon the Switch audience and make a clean break and say, hey, we have new games and they're only on this system? I find that highly unlikely, but I'm definitely willing to hear your theories. Let me know in the comments down below. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive, everybody. Until next time, love you lots. SwitchForce out.